Just getting suited up in preparation for his journey down the quarter mile. Chuck Haynes in the Gravity Storm dragster. Alongside him to do battle and keep him honest will be Ansel Horton. Ansel on screen now in his Texas Jetstar dragster. Ansel is the quickest of the two and has travelled the quarter mile in 5.4 seconds at well over 300 miles per hour. They have the full support of both their wives. You can see Peggy Horton just strapping him in there. Anita Haynes doing likewise for Chuck. The fire crew standing by, and they are going to be needed today because these things producing plenty of flame. You can hear the big J60 engines start to fire up. They wind up to a nice high-pitched scream. These cars are very, very loud. A lot of people have heard the Top Fuel dragsters running over the drag strip. These cars, similar sort of noise, 140 decibels, but it is a lot different. Problems for Horton. They're going to push that car back. He is unable to fire up the Texas Jetstar, so that means that Chuck Haynes, for the first time at Eastern Creek Raceway, will be taking the Gravity Storm down on a solo pass. Look at the flame. The crowd absolutely love it. Shakes the cameraman there. 6,300 pounds of thrust being produced from these cars. It is estimated that each pound of thrust is worth 2 horsepower. That means this car is putting out over 12,000 horsepower. That's the equivalent of over 2 Top Fuel cars. Absolutely amazing figures from these J60 engines. The engines come from a Sabreliner corporate jet. On the planes, they don't have the afterburners. The afterburners are home built. They are fitted to the engines and then placed into the car. The percentage starts to come up. It's basically a figure of RPM. He's up around about 90% at the moment, doing the burner pops, just squeezing that trigger on the steering wheel. Big bursts of fuel into the afterburner of the car. Creeps into stage. Everyone standing behind the start line will be shuttered by the immense force being produced from this car. This is one of them. We'll have 2 of them side by side a little bit later on. The first ever jet dragster to travel down Eastern Creek's quarter mile. Chuck Haynes brings it into stage. How far will he travel down the quarter mile? We've had some rain over the day. Capability of over 300 mile an hour. Here we go. Solo pass for Haynes. Bounces a little bit and shuts it off just short of half track. Absolutely amazing spectacle are these jet dragsters. Chuck Haynes, the first ever jet car pilot to go down Eastern Creek Raceway. You can see the braking area there. Let's have a look at it on the replay. Cars into stage and bang! Just like a gun. Only goes to half track though. As I said before, we have had a little bit of precipitation here throughout the day. The braking area still is a little bit slick, so we will be very cautious with how we treat these vehicles. As I said before, capability of near 500 kilometres an hour. There's Ansel Horton. He had problems on that pass, but we will see him back for a side-by-side battle. Well, regular watchers of the Speed Week program will be aware of truck racing. Truck racing back again, this time with a little bit of a twist. They're going drag racing. Peter Forshaw up against Frank Graffario in the Bandag Bullet. The situation is with the rain, these trucks are unable to do a full quarter-mile pass. However, they will be putting on a fantastic show with their awesome burnouts. We can see the Bandag Bullet coming into the burnout area now. Just starting to smoke up the big Penrite truck. Gets off onto the plane. You can see the red smoke starting to form there. This is one of the first ever drives for Peter Forshaw. He's a crew member on the Russell Scarcella truck, and he's now been credited for his work by getting a drive. What a fantastic way to do it. Look at the huge burnout. The crowd absolutely love the trucks here at Eastern Creek Raceway. Forshaw driving the 14-litre Kenworth, but here is the big beast, the Bandag Bullet. 2 GMs, 2 superchargers, 4 turbochargers, over 16 litres of GM in the back of this big Kenworth, and what a beast it is. This truck has gone through a number of changes over the years, and to find out a little bit more about the Bandag Bullet, the newest member of the Speed Week program, Murray Claire Wollaston, managed to catch up with the driver a little earlier on, Frank Graffario.
We're here at Eastern Creek with Frank Graffario and his Bandag Bullet. Frank, tell us about this massive monster. Well, it's an 8-ton prime mover with 2,100 horsepower, 4 turbos, 2 superchargers, and it goes from 0 to 100 miles an hour in 10 seconds.
That's unbelievable. How long has it taken you to put this amazing piece of machinery together?
Oh, we've been at it for about 12 years. We had one previous to this, and we've updated it, put more cubic inch into it. But we've been associated with drag racing for about 15 or 20 years, and we're involved with truck racing, and we like it.
It's amazing, a lot of time and effort. Where have you come from today to race?
Brisbane. Kevin Prendergast from Eastern Creek rang us and asked us to bring the vehicle down, and put on a good show. We've got one of the other trucks here, and we're running quite decent times and surprising everybody here, I think.
What's the fastest time you've done on the quarter mile?
12.5 at 118 miles an hour.
That is screaming down the track.
Well,
scary.
It's faster than your average shopping trolley anyway.
Well, thanks, Frank. Most shopping trolleys don't weigh 8.5 tonne either and do burnouts like this one. What a fantastic effort this time. You can hear the crowd absolutely going bananas. They really enjoy watching the Bandag Bullet. As he said, 2,100 horsepower, and that helps put that out of the ground to run this thing over the quarter mile at over 110 miles an hour and do those awesome burnouts. That's a huge effort to turn those big Bandag tyres. Look at the truck drift around. Peter Forshaw doing a fantastic job in the Penrite machine. This is probably his second or third time in the truck, and he's really come to terms with doing these big burnouts. That's what it's all about. The crowd really enjoy smelling that smoke and listening to those big trucks rev. Over 1,000 horsepower in the Penrite machine, 2,100. And look at that truck right across the centre line, and he's lost it. Slides to a stop, and the crowd love it. Fantastic vocal crowd here at Eastern Creek Raceway, considering the conditions. The rain has fallen quite heavily for the last couple of hours, but it's stopped now and the track's dry. Let's see how they go over the quarter mile. We've seen the burnouts, and it's a red light from Forshaw. Peter Forshaw has red lighted in the Kenworth. Frank Lafera has got to chase him down. Run the truck through to half track, then they shut him down. Well, as I said before, the rain dampened the spirits of a few of the spectators out there, but the jet cars are back to try to warm them up. Ansel Horton had troubles on his first pass. He has decided to bring the car back. He's done it in around about 15 minutes, and he wants to put on a good show. Making up for the solo pass that Chuck Haynes had to do, Ansel Horton now on a solo pass. You can hear the big J60 engine start to wind up. Starts off at around about 60% for the beginning of his fire show. 60% of thrust, that is. And an awesome fire show, that is. He's got a button on the steering wheel, which he presses. It dumps raw fuel into the afterburner. And that's the incredible fire show that we see. This car is the quicker of the two. Has run over the quarter mile in 5.4 seconds at over 300 miles per hour. Not only is this car the quicker of the two, it is one of the quickest in the world. Ansel formerly campaigned a J34 car, a jet car similar to this, however, weighing nearly twice the Texas Jetstar. This car comes in at around about 1,350 pounds. That's a very, very light car, probably one of the lightest cars in drag racing. Now he bumps the engine up to around about 90%, goes into the burner pipes. Awesome amount of force coming from the back of this car. He's got two brake pedals in the cockpit, one for the back brakes, one for the front brakes. He's pushing down on them very, very hard to try to hold it on the start line. Gets away strongly, drives it to about half track and shuts it off. You can see the tailpipe glowing as he shuts the big beast down. Let's have a look at it on the replay now as we switch back to the start line. Ansel Horton on about 110% off the start line, pushes him back in the roll cage and shuts it off early. Unable to go the full length of the quarter mile due to the weather, but hopefully when we come back a little bit later on the program, we'll see these vehicles side by side and travelling the full 400-metre distance. Right now, though, it's time for karting, and it's over to Greg Creek Raceway, and the weather has been playing havoc. You can see the jet dryer out there at the moment, drying up the Eastern Creek start line. We'll see some more jet dryers out a little bit later on, but they've got a lot more attitude than that beast. The crowd have been very, very patient. They've hung around to see the absolute amazing spectacle of the Jet Dragsters, and here they are. The first ever side-by-side pass of Jet cars down Eastern Creek Raceway. Peggy Horton just holding the brake there on the Texas Jetstar as it starts to fire up. They bring this beast up to around about 60% thrust for the beginning of the fire show. In beside him, from the United States of America, Chuck Haynes. His wife Anita drives the car down the track. They've got to get well away from those flames. The crowd can feel the heat. Look at them up on the hill. They know it's hot down there. The rains came, but now the Jet Dragsters are back to heat up the drag strip. Fire on both sides of the racetrack. The Eastern Creek Control Tower absolutely shudders and thunders with each pop of flame out of the back of these dragsters. Thousands of degrees of heat being produced by these cars. 6,300 pounder thrust on both sides of the racetrack. That's over 12,000 horsepower per car, and you don't have to be a mathematician to work out the brute force that is on the start line. The percent comes up now to around about 90%. They're doing the burner pops. Squeeze the thumb on the steering wheel. Bring the cars into stage. They'll be hard on the brakes into pre-stage. Both feet squeezed down in the cockpit. The cameraman in between the two cars, how brave is he? Grant Hannaford doing a fantastic job for Speed Week. Horton's into pre-stage. We wait on Haynes now. These guys are hard on the brakes. The percent's up at about 110%, and it's a red light for Haynes. Horton launches down the racetrack. Chuck Haynes, very brave there, drove it to around about 800 foot and shut the car off. And that is absolutely fantastic stuff. The Eastern Creek crowd absolutely love these Jet cars. Let's look at it on the replay now. Haynes, as I said, left a little bit early, but Horton was chasing him down. They had the chutes out early. The braking area, as you can see, is still a little bit slippery, but they still are doing an absolutely fantastic job at pleasing this huge crowd. And what a big and responsive crowd it is too. As Frank Gafferio comes out in the Bandag Bullet to put on another tyre smoking performance. The word is the Jet cars will be back for another side-by-side performance, and due to the inclement weather, it was decided earlier on that it was too dangerous for the wheel-driven cars to go racing. However, they did come out earlier on and put on a fantastic show. Check this out.